Can you or your business be sued for a bad manicure? We're going to be talking about that and more, and how to shield yourself from such craziness in the future for your wedding business. Stick around. Hey out there, welcome back to Wedding Industry Law, the least popular YouTube channel dedicated to wedding businesses just trying to keep it legal. We talk about all things contracts, business, client disputes, all the whole shebang with keeping your wedding business legal. In this week, I hear you, the overwhelming silence with regard to last week's video taking place in a dog park. I waited to the last minute again to make another video. So we are here at the lovely dog park with Nala. In this video, we're talking about a TikTok that I ran across, which featured a lady that was getting married same day. She got a manicure, and the manicure is really bad. I can't tell the difference between a good manicure and a bad manicure. They all look weird to me, but that's just me. I'm a dude. So at any rate, it really touches on something that I wanted to talk about, which is, if that manicurist did such a bad job, what is she liable for? And are there any corollaries with your particular wedding business, whether you're a DJ or photographer, venue owner, that type of thing? So it comes down to damages. What are the damages that you could be liable for if you do something wrong, if you deliver something not in a workmanlike not in a workmanlike way that is typical for your industry? If you do the manicure bad, if you take bad photos, these type of things, what are you liable for? So I don't want to beat a dead horse with regard to expectation damages, pardon the train in the background, but expectation damages are the damages that you would be liable for in a breach of contract action, which is what you failed to deliver, what's that worth, and you would have to give that to them. So if you are a DJ and maybe you left an hour early, what's an hour of your time worth? This type of thing. So typically fairly easy to quantify. But in this particular instance, why this particular story drew me to make this video is because what happens if this manicure hurt the lady? Like, what if it literally she had to go to the hospital, for example? That is something outside of breach of contract. That is something outside of the idea that I have promised to do a service for you, and you've promised to pay me for this service. So if you hurt somebody, if you're negligent, if you intentional conduct and you hurt somebody, that at that point you're liable for something other than expectation damages, something other than breach of contract damages. You're going to be liable for whatever harm that you caused that person. So let's say that this manicure gave the lady third-degree burns, for example. She had to go to the hospital. She had to have a couple days in the hospital, for example, and that might have been 15 grand in medical bills. Well, if you were negligent and you directly caused the lady to get those injuries on her fingers, then you would likely be liable for those in a negligence action. That's something separate and apart than a breach of contract action. Okay, so that's one thing that I want to drive home to. There's a way that we can temper or limit to the best we can, minimize negligence actions and damages from negligence actions where we are delivering something on a contract but actually hurt somebody physically or through our negligent actions. And that is adding what's called an indemnification or hold harmless clause in our contract. In most jurisdictions, you as the service provider can get the client to essentially waive their right to sue you for negligent injuries that you caused to the client. Now, not all jurisdictions and not in every situation, but that's why typically you have indemnification clauses in your contract, is that it's getting somebody out of some type of situation in which somebody's suing for physical injuries. But again, like I said, you can do that as the wedding business professional. You can shield yourself from your own negligent actions in some jurisdictions. Some jurisdictions you cannot. But that's what I wanted to really stress to you with this manicure video. If this lady got really hurt, what would be the issue? Now, let's set that aside. What are the damages if the manicure cause some other type of issue? Like, so for example, let's say that the lady was late for an hour because she had to go and get another manicure done. And so therefore it caused everything to be pushed back by an hour, for example. Well, the original manicurist that did a bad job, if the court of law says that she did a bad job, then she would be liable for not just the other manicure So whatever the other manicure cost that was last minute, let's say it was $150, she'd be liable for that $150 if proven, but she would also potentially be liable for the result of everything being an hour late. So if you had to pay the DJ an extra hour, if you had to pay the venue an extra hour, and so on and so forth. So that original manicurist would be responsible not only for that other manicurist to fix her work, but all that other money that the client will have to pay to the other vendors. Now, what happened? We don't want to be in that situation, right? Obviously, we want to do a good job, but at the same time, things happen. So in order to minimize your risk in that kind of situation where maybe you do a bad job and it kind of sets forth a chain reaction, oftentimes in contracts, and I've talked about this in other videos before, is the idea of adding a limited liability clause in your contract. That is to say that you and the client are going to agree that a certain amount of money is going to be owed to the client if the professional is responsible for a breach of contract, and that amount of money only. It won't go over that amount. And what that amount is will vary from contract to contract. It'll vary from situation to situation. Typically, the limited liability clause in contracts is going to be either a times X, like the client can only get if they're successful in a lawsuit, 3 times the contract value, or maybe even just literally the contract value, right? So no more than what you've paid for this contract. So in this situation, the manicurist would be responsible for only $195. I think that's what it was. It'll show in the corner, but whatever that is. And again, this is another thing, just like the indemnification clause. This is something that is going to vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction with regard to how enforceable it is. So it's important to talk to an attorney about limitations of liability clauses. But the idea is that you're trying to limit the liability that you would have in a situation to what you can perceive and can understand. So, businesses couldn't exist if in an everyday situation, in an everyday transaction, you might turn around and be in a lawsuit for $50 million. Like, it's not worth having a business at that point. So these limitation of liability clauses are just ways in which we can really run a business in a way that we can perceive risk and operate within the realms of those risks. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. And I don't know why this crazy fingernail story made me think about this, but those are the issues that come up whenever you do, or unfortunately you might do a bad job, that you might not just be open to breach of contract damages, but you might be open to other foreseeable or consequential damages resulting from your behavior. And even in the worst instance, if you've caused physical harm, you might be open to the pain and suffering and harms and the money resulting from the harms and losses that you caused physically to a client. So all that from a TikTok. So maybe I should be on TikTok a little bit more often. It'll give me some more inspirato for other videos. If you found this video informative, if you like looking at Nala in the background, please be sure to let me know. Like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from. New videos just like this every week. I'm hoping that my new camera, which is this new phone I got, first new phone in 6 years, is doing okay. I'm hoping that you don't just hear birds talking. I hope you hear me at least. So at any rate, with that, folks, we will see you next week.